Simple, straightforward.
Yeah, it's just like
as long as I follow
a lot of following directions. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so what do we want to deploy? I'm thinking maybe we'll deploy the validations demo that we've been working with. All right, fair enough. So let's go. The very first thing I'm probably going to do is, we need to create a Git repository, right? Can anyone tell me what Git is?
version control.
Version control, right. So this is version control software. And let's just do, so the first thing that we need to do with a Git repository is we need to initialize it. What's the command for that?
Git init.
Git init. Make that a little bigger. Okay, cool. So we created this empty repository, and you guys can see I've got all this stuff in green. What does that mean?
Those are subfolders?
So it means that I have changes in here, right? That have not, they're untracked changes, basically. So how can I track that? Or I can basically add these changes so that I'll be able to create a commit. How do I add these changes? Git add, and then if I do dot, that means that it's going to add everything that's in this folder, at least that I'm not ignoring. Okay.
Would you want to add like the PyCache files?
Yeah, actually, maybe we should before we do that. Do they have that here in the?
I don't think they have that.
Really? There's no git ignore in here?
Yeah, they don't. They do.
Yeah.
The setup?
Oh yeah.
Oh, here it is. Okay, here it is. So we'll just copy this guy. So if we're ignoring our database, obviously what that means is that once we deploy, we're not going to have any of the data that we had in our local version, right? Because we're completely ignoring that. So the way that we create this git ignore file is that we can, I mean, there are different ways that we could do it, but I can just do code.gitignore, and that'll drop it right in here, so I can just paste that stuff in. Okay? So what this means is that we're ignoring this entire directory, right? We're ignoring the VS Code directory, which we actually don't have here. A venv directory, we don't have that either, so don't worry about that. But we are ignoring our database. We won't have our data once we deploy. Okay. So let's see what happens here. Now that we've created this git ignore, notice here that this is no longer in green. What does that mean? It's kind of like a faded gray color. It's what? Yeah, it's being ignored. It's not. So I can make tons of changes to this, and it won't create changes in my my repository, right? All right, cool. So now let's actually add what we have. So we'll say git add dot. All right, and then how do I commit these changes? So -m means we can say what some message to go along with our commit. And since this is just our very first commit, we can just say initial commit. Okay, good deal. And then we should see these guys. Why is that not refreshing? What? Doesn't this usually change back from green after you've made your commit?
Close and reopen code.
That's so weird. Wait, let me just check the status here. Yeah, nothing to commit. Everything's clean. I don't know why it's showing that there are changes here. That's pretty odd. Pending changes, which we've already committed. So I mean, really, that's troubling. But let's keep going. Let's not worry too much about it. We know that we've committed everything that we did, so that's good. Where do I want to save this remotely? Because I need to have a remote repository that my server will have access to. GitHub probably, yeah. Or if you have Bitbucket or something, you could use that. Yeah, GitLab would work. Totally. So if I want to, yeah, there are a bunch of free services. So if I want to create a new repo, just go up in there. We'll call this validations demo. I'm not going to make this private, but you guys should make yours private because obviously this is an exam, so we don't want people getting any special ideas. All right, so let's create this repo. And then they give us some handy commands here. So if we just simply want to push up an existing repository, which we now have on our computer, we can do this. Just 2 lines of code right there. All right. So there are 2 different options here. You'll notice up here I've got an HTTPS option and an SSH option. I'm going to use the SSH option, but you guys will probably not use that because I use a password manager and yeah. Anyway. But anyway, no, I'm just making mention the command is going to be slightly different for me because I'm using SSH, but you guys can use HTTPS. That's fine. So all I need to do is grab this here and paste that in. Okay, so what that's doing, it's doing 2 things for us. As you can see, we're setting a remote origin to this actual remote Git repository. And then the other thing is we're then pushing up all of our changes to it, right? So now the remote repository is completely in sync with what we have locally. Any questions about that part? The Git stuff?
Took the lines of code and you dragged them
Drag them?
I think it's easier.
No, I just copied and
in there? It
pasted.
looked like you dragged them in there.
Really? Yeah, that'd be kind of cool if I could. No, I didn't do that. Just copy paste. All right. So the other thing that we need to do now that we've got this remote repository, right? We actually have to get a server set up, and we're going to use AWS to do that. So this is kind of what I was telling you guys is that before you try to deploy on test day, make sure that you have your AWS account set up and ready to go, because sometimes there may be a delay of a few hours before you can actually create an instance or something like that. Right? So if I sign into the console here, you'll see here I've recently visited the EC2 service, so that's where we want to go. Okay, I have 0 running instances right now, so that's cool. I'm going to create a new one, right? We're going to go launch instance. And then once this loads up, this is going to give us some different options. I believe the one they were recommending was 1804. Is that right, Connor? Do you remember?
It just said it.
Ubuntu 1804. So this guy right here. So notice this is a really key detail though. Free tier eligible. All right. So make sure you pick one of the ones that's free tier eligible, because if not, you will get billed. All right. So let's select that guy there.
Can I have
Hmm?
a question?
Yeah, sure.
Do you need to change the location? Because AWS, they have multiple locations on the top.
Yeah. Do you need to change? I mean, for what reason?
I
It's
don't
not going to matter to me what location you use. So yeah, don't worry about it. But if you want to change it, you can. Yeah, definitely. All right. So the other thing that we need to do is configure the security groups, right? So let's go to configure security group here. So this is going to allow us to actually log into the server, SSH. Okay. Now right now you can see it's custom, but I want to be able to log into my server from anywhere. Okay. You guys could also notice here you could select my IP. So what that's going to do is it's going to lock it to my current IP, meaning that if I then go home and I try to log into my server, it's not going to work. All right, and it'll just hang there, like it won't even give you an error. You just be sitting there and like, why can't I log in? Well, it's because it's locked to that specific IP. So I'll just do anywhere here. And then the other thing that we need to do is we need to set HTTP to anywhere as well. So what that means is that I'm actually going to be able to go to my server through a web browser from any IP. It's not going to restrict that. Okay. Now in the platform, I think they also mentioned HTTPS here. Doesn't really matter because we're not using HTTPS, but if you were using HTTPS for like a real project, which you definitely should be, then you would also add that rule here. So we could go HTTPS, there it is. So we could also set that to anywhere as well. Okay, now we can go review and launch. And they're telling us here, your security group is open to the world. Okay, we want it to be so that we can actually, visit the server, right? Okay, let's launch it. Now they're saying we need to select a key pair or create a new key pair to actually log into the server. All right. Since I've got some different key pairs, but I'm just going to create a new one since we're doing this as a demo. So what we would do is we would change this to create a new key pair, and then I'll just call this Django deploy pair. Okay. Download that key pair. Cool. And then we'll launch this guy right here. Okay. So once it's launched, we can actually click on this link right here to just go and see what's going on with it. So here's the instance. It's still initializing, as you guys can see here. But in the meantime, we should be able to go down here, instance settings. Oops. Where do they give you the login commands? I mean, I know what they are, but I want to show you guys where that is. Do you remember where those were, Connor? When you okay. Oh, so if we go to connect here, notice how it's basically going to tell us exactly how we can connect to the server. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to change the permissions of that key pair that we just downloaded to make it usable. So I'm going to take this, and then inside my terminal, oops. Actually, I'll just do another terminal window. I'm going to go to my downloads folder where that key pair is. So I could go cd downloads. And then I'm going to run this command, which is going to change the permissions on that key pair. Okay, cool. And then now that the permissions are changed, we should be able to actually connect to this thing. So they're giving us the exact command to do that. Here's the example right here. We can use that completely. So I can just copy and paste that. Okay. So let's go into the terminal here. My key pair is in the same folder, in my downloads folder. So I'm going to just paste that guy in there. And they're going to say the authenticity of this host can't be established. So you have to say, yes, I want to allow this connection. Okay, cool. What does this green tell us? We're connected to our server, so that's nice. Everything worked. We got it launched. We're now connected. So let's keep going through the steps here that they gave us in the platform. Okay, so we did our server access. I think we covered everything in here, but I'm just going to double check. Yeah, so we're connected. So let's look at the configuration part. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to update the server. So we'll run this guy, apt-get/update. Okay, the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to install Nginx. Does anyone know what Nginx is? A web server. Yeah, exactly. Very good. Let's install that guy. Okay, and then you're going to have to say yes because it requires some space. All right, what's next? So the next thing is we need to actually clone the repository that we just uploaded to GitHub, right? Okay. So if I go back to my my repository here, let me just refresh this. So now I can click on this guy to see the exact command. So I want to use HTTPS in this case. Grab this guy. Go back to my terminal. And then we're just going to, whoops, git. Do I need to do sudo on this? I guess I do, right?
I think it tells you not to.
Oh, no sudo? Alright. Thank you. Git clone. Okay, so we cloned. We're good. Let's keep going here. So the other thing that we want to do is we want to actually install Python 3 venv. So this means that we're going to be able to use virtual environments on our server in the same way that we've been doing it locally. Okay. Say yes when prompted. I don't know if you guys could see that, but that text was kind of like faded out.
But I know you're setting this all up on the server.
On the actual remote server. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and then the other thing is we need to navigate to our repository folder. So notice how we've got these double curly braces? Are we inside of a template here? No, so that just means that we want to substitute in for that whatever the name of our actual repo is, right? Okay, so if I want to cd in there, ours was called validations demo. Okay, now we're inside. And then we want to create a virtual environment. So remember this command here, Python 3-m venv, and then we're going to call that virtual environment venv as well. 3, whoops, m venv. All right. So we've got this virtual environment. Now, of course, we need to activate it like we've been doing locally. Okay, so we'll go source venv bin activate. Okay, cool. So my virtual environment is now activated on the server itself.
Inception.
Yeah, it's like Inception. Okay. So now what we need to do, we need to install some things inside of our virtual environment just like we did on our local, right? We want to install Django, bcrypt, and then gunicorn. That's something that we haven't been working with locally. So we'll go pip install Django double equals 1.10, right? Okay, and then we'll go pip install bcrypt. And then finally, we're going to install this thing called gunicorn. All right. Yeah, that's pretty exciting, right? We got unicorn going on here. All right. Next, Vim. Okay. So, yeah, this whole section is actually just talking about some different things that you can use in this editor called Vim. Okay? And we'll be using some of these commands when we edit files through the terminal on the server. So let's keep going. So the first step, and here's some important stuff up here. They're just mentioning anytime you see the double curly braces, that means that you're substituting the value for your specific project. Okay? Again, it's not a Django or a Jinja template. All right. So down here, we want to cd inside our project name. So right now we're inside the actual project folder. You guys remember there's going to be another subfolder with the exact same name, right? Yeah, good point. Let me do that. Whoa. Every time I make things bigger, it kind of like slows it down for a second. All right, so now we need a cd inside that same name. Okay? this is where we're actually going to find our settings.py, right? Okay. So what they're telling us here is that once we get there, we're going to want to edit our settings.py. So sudo vim settings.py, right? Can anyone tell me what sudo means? Super user do, right? Okay, cool. So now we're actually able to edit this settings.py file. Let's see what we need to change about it. So what we want to do is we need to add this line. Okay, so a couple things, right? We need to set debug to false. So currently it should say debug is true. Let's change that. So how do we insert when we're inside Vim? So just say I, change this to false. And then the other thing it's telling us to do is we need to add our specific host to the allowed hosts list, right? Okay, notice how this is going to be a string. There are the quotes there, so we have to kind of watch out for that. So let's check what our public IP is. This is our public IP. So I'm just going to copy that. And then let's add that into our hosts list. So just go like that. There we go. And then the other thing that we need to do, whoops, is we need to add this static root path as well. Okay. So this doesn't need any kind of substitution. We could just grab this and paste it in there directly. No need for that comment though. Oops. Okay, so I'll just go down to the bottom here. Drop that in there. Okay. So how do we get out of the insert mode when we're using Vim? Escape. Okay. And then when we want to actually save this, we're going to do colon and then WQ. That means write and quit. Okay. So we're good there. Now what we have to do is we have to navigate back to the folder that holds manage.py. So that's just one level out from where we are right now. So let's just go cd ... Okay. And then what it's saying is that we need to run this command manage.py and collect static. All right. So let's just run this. This is kind of a different command that we haven't done this locally. You will overwrite existing files. Are you sure? Yes, I am. Okay. That was pretty easy. Okay, now check this out. We have to do make migrations and migrate. So no surprise there. Always have to do that, right? So we'll go Python manage.py make migrations. No changes detected. Migrate. All right, so our database is migrated, so that's all good. Now we need to go to the GUnicorn section. So we're going to test GUnicorn. Now notice these double curlies again. So we're going to do GUnicorn, the name of the project, and then .wsgi. Name of the project is validations demo.wsgi. Okay. So they're telling us that we should basically see something like this, booting worker with some process ID, right? And we saw that in our terminal. So everything's good. All right, let's keep going. Cool, we're going to exit this process. We'll do that with Control-C. Pretty standard. Now we're going to set up GUnicorn to run as a service. All right. Again, all we need to do is copy this bad boy in there. And then we need to do some substitutions in here. So this is what we're trying to paste into this file. However, notice that we've got some double curly braces in here. So what I'm going to do, and I kind of recommend this because I've made mistakes that were very hard to debug. Just open up a new tab here in your code editor, paste it in, make your substitutions, copy it again, and then paste it back in the terminal. All right? Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more what Unicorn is, or how? I don't understand.
G-Unicorn is essentially acting as a gateway between Nginx, which is the web server, and our Django app. It's kind of, acting as the in-between, the middleman.
Okay. And like, is this a specific program that we have to use, or is there other alternatives that the same thing?
Sure. Why not? It's not something that you're going to need to interact with a lot. Again, it's just fulfilling a role. It's a good question, though. All right, so let's look where we need to make substitutions, right? So I've got, every time I've got a double curly brace, let's fit that in. So my repo name was validations demo. Okay, and then I've got down here, same thing. Whoa. Validations demo. And then I need to remove these. Whoa. Okay. Be very careful with this because you could easily mess this up. All right, so I need to replace my repo name again. Demo, and then your project name. Demo. Project name. All right, so that looks pretty good, right? So let's go back in the terminal and just paste that guy back in. So again, we're inside Vim. How do I insert? I. Okay. Paste that in, and then to get out of insert mode, I just escape, and then again, :WQ to write that file. Okay. So now what we want to do is actually run these commands to restart the daemon. So this is the process. Then we need to restart G-Unicorn. And then we're just going to check the status of G-Unicorn as everyone leaves the room. Like, dang it. G-Unicorn, they don't like that. All right. All right, good. So everything's good. We've got this little green circle. It's saying it's active, it's running, so good to go, right? And you'll see in the platform, too, they're telling you, look out for this. If you don't get this, if you don't get that green circle, it means you've probably inserted something incorrectly inside that file that you were just working with. All right? And then they talk about troubleshooting. So again, if you didn't enter something correctly in there, you'd probably end up in there. Nginx. This is our web server, so we have to set this guy up as well. Okay. So we're going to open up Vim. Oops. Get out of that. So let's do this, and then we also need to put the name of our project in here too. So validations demo. And they're basically giving us everything that we need, but we still have to do some substitutions. So I'm going to jump into the text editor to do that. Oops. Get rid of that stuff. Okay. Close that out over here. So again, we need our public IP, and we can get that from the instance over here. I'll go back here. Replace that. And then we've got over here our repo name, which again was just validations demo. And then finally down here we've got a couple more replacements here. Validations demo. Validations demo. Okay? Do I have any other double curlies in here that I missed? No, it should be all of them. So let's just grab that again, copy it, open up the terminal one more time, and then we go insert to put this in, escape to get out of insert mode, and then we'll do WQ to right quit, right? Okay. Now, what we're doing is we're actually linking, we're creating a symbolic link, okay, between the file that we just created and another file that's going to be sort of symbolically there, according to the link. Okay, so I'll go back here and change this to my project name. Oops. Stations demo. Now we are going to run a test against Nginx to make sure it likes our configuration. Okay, so that's what this means when we say sudo nginx-t, and it's telling us the configuration that you have is okay, so we're good. All right. Finally, what we need to do is we're just going to remove the default configuration for Nginx. We don't need that. Okay, and then we just want to restart Nginx. Okay. Copy. Go back in here. All right, so we restarted Nginx. That's pretty much it, isn't it? All right, let's try to go to the instance and see if it's running properly. Copy to clipboard. Yeah, go to my login reg. Start adding some movies. Yeah, I'll give you the address. It's 34.216.225.68.
Alright, I'll put in my info.
Put in your favorite movies. So not too bad. You know, if you're doing it fairly quickly, you could probably do it in like 20 minutes.
The password has to be more than
Yeah, validation.
Okay, so
We do that whole process every time we